back, brothers and sisters of Christ. My name is Brianna and I'm back with another video. For today's video is, does God test us? A lot of people will often ask this question like, did God test us? Is this a test from God? And the answer is yes. God does test us. He tests our obedience, our faith, and our heart, our love for him. And the reason why I say this is because I have 3 examples that made me realize and open my eyes that, like, wow, the Lord will test us. The first example that I have is in Exodus. It's chapter 16. I think I'm going to read verses 4 through 27. So Exodus chapter 16, starting with 4, it says, Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites in the evening, You will know that it is the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us? Moses also said, You will know it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he had heard your grumbling against him. Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, Say to the entire Israelite community, Come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked toward the desert, and there was the glory of the Lord appearing in the cloud. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Tell them at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, What is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some gathered little. And when they measured it by the omer, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, O-M-E-R, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone had gathered just as much as they needed. Then Moses said to them, No one is to keep any of it until morning. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. So they didn't listen to the commandments. The Lord wanted to see if they were going to trust him, that he would feed them every day. So don't keep anything until tomorrow morning, because I'm going to provide for you every day. And I want to see it. I'm going to test y'all to see if y'all trust that I'm going to do that. So he was testing their obedience and their faith in this passage. And he used the word test. So I do believe that the Lord tests our obedience and tests our faith in him. I mean, I've seen it multiple times in my own personal life where I'm like, okay, this was a test from God. He wants to see if I'm going to stay down. And because they failed the test, they did not listen to him. There were maggots in the blood, the bread. They weren't supposed to keep any until the next day. They were supposed to trust that the Lord was going to provide for them, and they didn't trust that. So he made it to where, okay, now it's going to be maggots in the bread. Y'all not going to be able to eat it because y'all didn't obey my word, and y'all didn't even trust and believe that I would provide for y'all. So that's what that passage, that's what stood out to me in that passage. And then I do have another example in Deuteronomy chapter 13. I think I'm going to read verses 1 through 5. Am I the only person that think turning pages sound dumb? It's just like this. I don't know. Okay. So Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. So if a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears among you and announces to you a sign or wonder, and if the sign or wonder spoken of takes place, and the prophet says, Let us follow other gods you have not known, and let us worship them, you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God, you must follow him, It is the Lord your God you must follow. In him you must revere. Keep his commandments and obey him. Serve him and hold fast to him. That prophet or dreamer must be put to death for inciting rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. So basically he's saying that, you know, if a prophet or a dreamer coming to you and it seems that they're real because the things that they're saying is coming to pass, but they saying like, let's go follow other gods. No matter if they are whatever they say has come to pass, if they tell you to follow another god, no, that is the Lord. He's testing you. He said God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. So in that portion, it made me realize that the Lord he does test our hearts and he tests our faith. Are you going to stay down just because someone appears to be, you know, okay, they telling the truth, you know, they seem to be a prophet, but they're telling you to follow other gods and turn away from our Lord? What are you going to do? Are you going to hold on to your faith like, nah, like, okay, you was right about that, but we not finna follow no other gods? Or are you going to be like, okay, well, they must be a real prophet since they told this came to pass, so I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to follow other gods. Like, no, we cannot be easily tricked or deceived by people, y'all. It don't matter what they say. Nothing and nobody should be having you following no other gods, praising no other gods. No. Period. We standing firm in what we believe in, which is God. And then I have one other example, and it is in Genesis chapter 22. I think I'm going to read 1 through 13. That's what I wrote down. Okay. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father. Yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and the wood are here, Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place the Lord will provide. And to this day it is said, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. So that right there, like, the Lord was testing his faith, his obedience, and his heart. And that is something that a lot of us is not willing to do today for the Lord. I'm not gonna lie, like they was stepping. They was stepping like in biblical days, because I would have been like, oh my goodness, like, what you mean, Lord? And Abraham was gonna do what God told him to do. And all in all, it was just a test. And he didn't even actually need him or want him to do that, but he was just testing his heart. And he was able to search and find that Abraham was loyal. And he really trusted in the Lord. He had faith in the Lord. Whatever the Lord was going to tell him to do, he was going to do it, baby. And that's how we need to be. And that's something major, like your children, you know what I mean? But It doesn't matter what it is, because we need to trust and understand that, for one, the Lord tests us, but for two, if the Lord is telling us to do something, we need to do it. It needs to be done. And he's not going to tell us to do it for our own, you know, for no reason. But yeah, so those stories just, you know, let me know that the Lord does test us with our obedience, our faith, and our heart. He won't test us with, like, you know, sin and temptation, I've learned. But definitely he's going to test our obedience, our faith, and our heart. And we need to be prepared and ready at all times to step and listen to the Lord, have faith in the Lord, and hold on to him and his word, y'all, because the Lord knows what he's doing. Okay, so I got scriptures, James chapter 1, verse 2-3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So he has to test our faith at the end of the day. Like, I mean, it really only makes sense, to be honest. Like, you can't tell me you ain't ever been, like, you ain't ever tested your partner's loyalty, you know, loyalty tests and stuff like that. Like, we got to test people's hearts. We got to test people's faith and see, like, do you really love me? Do you really trust me? Do you really believe in me? And you gonna get them answers. And them answers let you know, like, okay, you're ready for this. And I feel like that's one of the things that the Lord do. Like, okay, like, when he tests us and we pass these tests, I feel like it lets him know, like, okay, you're ready for the next level. You're ready for the next step. Okay, you can handle this blessing right now. Like, you've matured. It really shows a lot about our character, about our faith. And that's something that I think that the Lord will want to know about us. Like, if we out here failing tests, he's like, okay, so how am I going to take you to the next level? How am I going to give you this blessing? You can't even pass this test of faith, obedience. And I can't even search your heart and find that you really, truly love me. How am I going to get you on to the next level? So I feel like that plays a huge part. Because depending on our faith and our obedience and our heart, we may not be ready for certain things. So I feel like that's the reason, one of the reasons why the Lord does that to us. And we have Proverbs chapter 17, verse 3. I don't know how to pronounce this word. The I don't know. It's Crucible for silver, and the furnace for gold. But the Lord tests the heart. So that lets us know that the Lord tests our heart. So we need to be ready at all times to step for the Lord, because he will be testing your faith. He will be testing your obedience, and he will be testing your heart. But yes, that is all that I have for today. If this word is not for you, for somebody else, remember, I'm telling y'all this because I love y'all. God bless.